Some of the biggest consumer products didn't start with ads, they started with misuse. Post-it notes, a failed glue at 3M. Play-Doh was originally a wallpaper cleaner. An IKEA flat pack was inspired by an employee who unscrewed a table to fit it in a car. The Ferrero family created a solid block of hazelnut cocoa paste that later became Nutella. And Nutella became popular because customers misused it. The Ferrero family created some of the most iconic products like Nutella, Kinder Surprise, and Tic Tac. So iconic, nothing can replace them. Some things are replaceable, like Coke. You know what the alternative for Coca-Cola is? It's Pepsi. Well, the alternative for Nutella, well, there isn't one. Or Kinder Surprise, there isn't one. Or Tic Tac, there isn't one. In the next 10 minutes, I will show you how the Ferrero family built a $50 billion chocolate empire no one can compete with, and how you can do it too if you follow their exponential strategy. Just a handful of companies control almost every piece of chocolate on Earth: Nestlé, Mars, Mondelez, and Ferrero. Here's how Ferrero earned the seat at that table. Ferrero, similarly like hundreds of the most successful companies, follow 3 moves that allow them the exponential growth. The first is architect stage, where companies iterate as fast as they can until the product clicks with consumers. Second is the stonemason stage, where companies build brick by brick and store their energy or money in things that compound. And finally, the exponential stage, where they expand by building their infrastructure or marketing and acquisitions that allow them to grow fast. So what was the first Ferrero family's first big product leap in the architect stage? It was Italy late 1940s. Cocoa is scarce, expensive, and political. Mousse makers shrink their cocoa bars or water them down and call it a day, just that they don't have to increase the price. But Pietro Ferrero, being the creative force he was, he looks what he does have: Piedmont, hazelnuts, sugar, a little cocoa, and tiny pastry shop. He presses the ingredients into a solid loaf. Pasta Gindua. Such a weird name for a product. It's not elegant. It melts in the summer and you have to slice it, but it's available. Families can actually buy it. But then Pietro's son, Michel Ferrero, often called the genius behind the Ferrero's brand, observed something. Parents are shaving thin slices and spreading them on bread for kids at breakfast. Sometimes a product is quietly telling you what it wants to be. Ferrero doesn't correct customers, he follows them. First, he softens the formula and calls it Super Crema. This is where Michel Ferrero took over and expanded the business into a global brand. And they didn't just stop there. This wasn't the final form of the product. They made Super Crema smooth at room temperature and made it glide on the soft bread without ripping the bread apart, and made it hold that glossy peak that makes you want a second spoon. In 1964, they finally gave it a name that the whole world could say: Nutella. There is a reason why I'm telling you the story of Nutella. Nutella isn't a new taste or a brand, it's a new ritual. Think about it: morning, jar twist, spread, share, comfort and belonging on demand. The Ferrero family knew one thing, and they knew it the best: if you keep the behavior effortless, it can become culture. This is important because competition is everywhere. Our human brain is programmed to crave sugar, but there are hundreds of other chocolate sugary products to choose from. So what did they understand better than their competitors? Nutella wasn't priced like a luxury chocolate. It's priced to be at your home tomorrow. Why have a novelty luxury chocolate a few times a year when you can have the great taste of Nutella every day? So while competitors were busy designing brands, Ferrero built rituals. They knew that everyday activities are the easiest to turn into habits. So it's no surprise that Ferrero family built their empire on products like Nutella for breakfast, Kinder for comfort, Kinder Surprise for curiosity, and Tic Tac for standing close to people. Each one isn't just a sweet, it's a deeply embedded ritual in our lives. And that's the architect job. Listen to the real-life use cases and redesign around them. Don't argue with how people use your product. Modify it so that it's easy to use. Chocolate mastery. Once the Ferrero brand designed its core products, invention stopped and mastery began. If they really wanted to achieve exponential growth, they had to prove one more thing before being successful, and that's scaling. To reach the exponential stage, Ferrero first had to master repetition, because you can scale chaos, only systems. The stonemason stage of exponential brands involves hard work of building values that last. For Ferrero, it was building 3 types of values: consistency, systems, and brand. Exponential level of precision meant building rituals not just for consumers, but inside the company itself. And so consistency is the key for every packaged food company. Ferrero had to make sure that every jar, every bar, and every mint had to feel identical. They optimized everything: the taste, the texture, packaging, even the feeling of opening it. The same taste, same texture, same emotion. Whether it was open in Rome, Rio, or Tokyo. They also had to put in place systems that made sure scaling wasn't an issue going forward. Machines were custom built to protect consistency. Ferrero also took secrecy seriously. Their secrecy is so deep that even employees didn't know the full formula. Every recipe had to be measured down to micrograms. But there was one last thing Ferrero company was lacking. Very common for stonemason stage of exponential companies, and that was building brand. When you put the gasoline on the ground, nothing happens. Yet when you pour it on the fire, it amplifies the outcome. This is where most entrepreneurs make mistake. They start marketing their products way before they're ready. They are trying to skip the step of perfecting the product and scale fast. But Ferrero products were successful, and so they spent hundreds of millions each year on marketing. Yet it never felt like advertising, because they don't sell feature, they sell feelings. A loving mother handing Kinder Bar to her children after school. The perfect family enjoying Nutella together for breakfast. A family celebration of Golden Pyramid of Rocher. Ferrero doesn't sell chocolate, they sell memories and rituals. For over 50 years, they've used the same jingle, the same tone, and same emotion. Also, their packaging kept the same concept over the past 50 years. That's because they want to build on top of marketing that they've already invested in, and not to start again from scratch. That's not laziness, that's psychological priming. They don't follow new trends, they create nostalgia. Why? Because marketing compounds. Marketing is repetition, and that reinforces the brand. Global super brand. If you want to scale anything exponentially, you are going to play the long game. The rule of playing the long game is to never go out of business. And what is the fastest way to go out of business? Scale fast and furious. And the Ferrero family knew that. They knew that they couldn't scale fast. They had to scale precisely. So how do you build a company that never goes out of business and that protects themselves from scaling too fast? Ferrero built a vertically integrated empire. They had their own hazelnut farms in Turkey, Italy, Chile, and Argentina. They built factories in-house rather than licensed products. They designed proprietary machinery to standardize the recipe globally. Where most companies rented efficiency from other suppliers, Ferrero bought control. That made them slower than Nestle or Mars, but it also made them anti-fragile. Ferrero had big advantage. They are a private company and always have been. And that means no shareholders, no quarterly pressure, no hype cycles. They can make 20 years bets with a 100-year discipline. And while competitors chase the new markets to impress investors, Ferrero compounds from within. They reinvest in R&D labs for taste and shelf life, robotics and automation, supply chain resilience, and long-term talent and secrecy. They don't measure success in quarters, they measure it in continuity. Public companies chase growth, Ferrero chases performance. And the next Ferrero's move wasn't about speed, it was about leverage. When your system compounds reliably, you don't need to run faster, you just plug in new engines. And that's what Ferrero did. They waited decades before acquiring anyone. 2015, Ferrero acquired Thorntons in the UK, a heritage chocolate brand with a loyal base. In 2017, they acquired Fannie Mae in the US, a premium gifting company decades old with deep emotional roots in American culture. For Ferrero, it was about cultural learning, understanding how Americans give, share, and celebrate. In 2018, The big one, the Ferrero buy Nestlé USA's entire candy business for $2.8 billion. That deal instantly gave them global shelf space, and brands like Butterfinger and Baby Ruth that already had decades of recognition. In 2022, more regionals acquisition followed, Crunchy Bar and others, moves designed to dominate convenience and impulse categories. The pattern was clear. Ferrero bought infrastructure, the distribution, systems, and data that would multiply what already worked. Today, Ferrero operates in more than 50 countries with over 40,000 employees and brands known by billions. Still private, still family run, and still guided by Michel Ferrero's simple motto: work, create, and give. Ferrero's story is about discipline to move through each stage of growth without skipping the hard parts. Architect, find the loop that makes your products better. Stonemason, make the customer's loop unbreakable via rituals and brand. Exponential, multiply it through your own infrastructure and precision. That's how you turn a post-war pastry shop into a $50 billion private empire built on rituals, not ads. And if you are building something on your own, remember this: you don't need to be first, you need to be consistent enough to last. If you want to know what is it really about sugar that makes people crazy, watch my first YouTube video about how sugar brands use our addiction to sell. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.